Azeri, this is how we say how are you, and you answer Lafia, meaning I am fine in my native Bagi language. I hail from Kuta in Shiroro local government of Niger State, Nigeria. My name is John Agmada Bawa. I am an architect and I hold a PhD in architecture. I'm currently pursuing a second PhD in environmental resource management. I also hold an MBA alongside other certifications that I possess. My journey into writing began several years ago when, as students of secondary school, we sank ourselves into reading so many books, especially novels, and I must confess, crime fictions. We read quite a bundle of them, especially James Hadley Chase and the likes of John Grisham, Leon Uris, Sidney Sheldon, Stephen King, Jeffrey Archer, and a lot of them. In fact, rising from there, I began to write a book myself, patterning it in the style of James Hadley Chase, a crime fiction. I titled it Beyond Suspicion. It was meant to be a 10-chapter book. However, around chapter 7 to 8, I met Christ and I discontinued the writing of that book. In secondary school, too, we loved to put together words to dazzle our audience when we had opportunities to go represent the school in debates. You will hear pun of words like, this is nothing but a terminological inexactitude, a concussion of fabricated mendacities, an acrobatic jangolism, the worst emphasis ever made by an intruder. And that is why I must advise you to let your conversational communication possess a cherified consciousness and congency. Let your intemporaneous, discernment, and unpermitted expectation have intangibility, veracity, and versity. Because it was as a result of my optimum surprisity that I came to this attentive conclusion of verbalizing the verbosity inclined that refused to decline. And at the end of this kind of pun of words, you will find the audience going agog, going excited, and a lot of applause. I will say that practically my journey into writing began from these days of formation, innocence, tenderness, and all of this. However, my first book that was targeted towards publication is What Will You Be Remembered For? I began writing that book in 2004, concluded in 2008, and it was first launched in 2009. The book was inspired by two events. One, as president of the Association of Architecture Students back then in the university, we lost a classmate by the name Nerik Dimka. He was such a nice gentleman. And while we were honoring him in a procession, we stopped at the environmental complex to speak to ourselves and to mourn this nice, gentle guy. And in one of such statements I made, I asked the question, what will you be remembered for when it is your turn to be buried 6 feet beneath the ground? And that question kept resonating in my mind. And then sometimes in January, January 2004, I was doing my task, my school task, and I fell into a deep trance. I guess it was as a result of prolonged denial of sleep and fatigue. And long story short, I saw myself in a funeral service. And guess what? It was my own funeral. When the officiating minister wanted eulogies and testimonies of the bereaved, no one wanted to stand to speak about me. And this troubled me. I started crying. I started shouting and screaming people's names and wanting them to just go and talk about me because I believed I was popular, I was everywhere, and everybody knew me. So, in my despair, in my disappointment, I grabbed a piece of paper and I started penning down what I wanted to be remembered for. I wanted people to remember me as a kind person, a nice person, a homely, welcoming person, a philanthropist. I wanted people to remember me as an inspiration. I wanted people to mention how I sponsored them through school and how I impacted their lives positively. And when I recovered from this trance, I made up my mind I was going to put it together in a book to tell the world to be deliberate and intentional about your existence. And so I began the journey of writing this book that has become for me my philosophy, my motivation, and reason for living. What Will You Be Remembered For has been a 3-chaptered book with the title, What Will I Be Remembered For? What Will People Remember You For? And ultimately, and more importantly, what will God remember you for? So in 2009, this book was launched. However, I saw the need to update it, and a revised edition was relaunched. A second edition was launched in 2025 on the 27th of September. Now, on the other books, 12 Things to Do Before You're 12, 18 Things to Do Before You're 18, 30 Things to Do Before You're 30, are as a result of my experience working amongst youths, children, teenagers for a span of about 27 years in my local church. And I even rose to become the children's church superintendent, where I gained insightful lessons and experience working with these children and teenagers and youths. And so I decided to put this book together, and this journey actually started in 2011, where I would prepare PowerPoints to go teach children, and I had a couple of invitations, people wanting me to come and talk about it, and the feedback has been tremendous. And sometimes in 2018, while I was commencing my PhD, I had made up my mind to put these materials into a book. And so while I was doing my PhD, and I was also compiling these and working on ensuring that it is a message that will truly transform people. And a couple of years down the line, the books were ready in 2023, and I began to work towards publishing these books. Now, sometimes people ask me, how are you able to write on 50 things to do before you're 50, 70 things to do before you're 70, and you are not yet 50? And I'm understanding that while certain knowledge are experiential, some are intuitive, some others are revelational. And I believe that 50 things, 70 things, and even 100 things to do before you die are both intuitive, also as a result of observation, and revelational. This is because the reviews that have come from these books have been quite inspiring, and I bet you these are books that will transform your life and transform the entire family, because these books have a read from every member of the family. There is no one that cannot find a book he or she can relate with. Right. I am blessed with a very wonderful wife, Dorothy, who is very intelligent and has also worked amongst the children since we got married. She joined me in this ministry, and in fact, she's currently the superintendent of the children's church in our local church. And she too has been working on discipling, encouraging, younger ladies to live excellent lifestyle, build character, and she's been working on, maybe for the past 3 years or so, working on writing the book titled The Female Man. And having done a review and contributing to the book, I decided to give men the version of that book, which I titled The Male Man. These books have come back to us with a lot of reviews that have been so exciting and transformative. As parents of 15 years, um, stewards over 3 lovely children, 47 and 3 are actually the names of our children, right? We have gained certain insightful experiences and revelational knowledge, and also working with children generally in their numbers. I also decided to put together certain instructional guidelines for parents, right, to understand the makeup of their children at different ages. And so I also wrote 12 things to do before they are 12 and 18 things to do before they are 18. Trust me, these books will deeply inspire you and transform you. Thank you very much for grabbing a copy. I love you.